Hey, so welcome back. In this video, we're gonna go over a bot so you can kind of see how everything works. So essentially, I can probably delete this information and I need to go ahead and import my configuration file. But before we get into this bot, as I've mentioned multiple times through this course, I wanna show you this trading bot, not for you to just go set it live or anything. I want you to be very, very careful with that type of stuff. I want you to build your own. The reason I'm showing you this trading bot is because I want you to have all of the pieces to the puzzle so you can go build your own strategy. There's no way for me to tell you the days, the times, the amounts, the leverage, all that stuff that I use for my bots. There's no way for me to always constantly give you that information. So it's just not safe for you to just take this code and run it. You don't know what variables I'm using. You don't know when I turn it off. You don't know when I turn it on. And I'll never be able to tell you that stuff. So the thing I can do that will give you the best result is just walk you through a couple of these bots of how I use them and how they're coded. And I can give you the code as well. But don't use them, like use them as a template to build your own and then back test your own strategies and then forward test with small amounts of money your strategies. And that's because for all the reasons I told you before. Like I can't tell you when it's on, when it's off, what the variables are, what the leverage is. So I'm just going to walk you through this. All this stuff is pretty familiar with you. These are some symbols and parameters I put in. My max loss, I was using a really high max loss. I'm going to put this way down to 8 and 9. I was using really high leverage. The ask bid, you already know how to do that. The SMAs, this you actually already know how to do as well. So I won't even talk about that. Check out the other videos. You'll have all this code as well. I put a 15-minute SMA in here as well. This one is probably the daily SMA. So here's another piece of code that's really good for you. You can use the 15-minute and the daily, have two different data frames. And I really just want to show you how I build these out. And then you can see the open positions that I constantly use in all of my bots. The kill switch, it gracefully gets us out of the position. I already went over that in one of the last videos. We're really just building off of the code that we've used in the past. This sleep on close is a different function that I added in here. It might be useful for you to use, but essentially this function gets our closed orders and it sleeps if there is too many orders. So this took me a really, really long time, so I'm happy I get to share this with you. But essentially, you can have a rule pretty much say, hey, only trade every 20 minutes. So this function would say, hey, there's been a trade that was 15 minutes ago, so I'm going to sleep for 5 minutes. And this is where you set that variable. You since last trade, how many minutes you want to pause pretty much. You can have fun with this code, play around with it, make it better. I use it in a lot of my bots because sometimes I don't want to overtrade. Some bots I do want to trade a lot, some bots I don't, but now you have this function. This function is interesting as well, something that took me a long time. Like, I keep laughing because oh man, I wish I was in your position. I wish I had all this information to start. But this is an order book. It fetches the order book, gets all the order book data, and then you don't have to ever use this, but it might be useful in some ways. Essentially, this goes through the order book and says, hey, for the last 12 times, because remember, we start with the zero index. For the last 12 times, or loop through this 12 times, and I have a pause here that sleeps 5 seconds. So 12 times 5 is 60 seconds. It gets all the order book data, and then it makes a list of it, and pretty much says, hey, if the order book data is showing that there's a lot of buyers in the market right now, we're not going to exit yet if we're in a long position, and the inverse if we're in a short position. So this is a cool little function that I'm happy to give to you as well, because this can be useful. And you can read through it yourself. and I can delete some of these notes. But the two main things in this function I would tweak are the time that it sleeps and then the range. Because remember, if you want it to run 12 times, you put 11 in here. If I wanted it to run 111 times, it would be that, right? So you could tweak that. You can also tweak the sleep here, because 5 times, or whatever that is, multiplied by however many times you run it, is how long it will collect the data for. So you can have all this code. I'll put it below. I'll put all this code below. As you can see, that's a very big function I created that took a while. This P&L close, we already went over it. It's super helpful. I use it in all of my code. Let's see what else there is here. And then the bot. So this is how I formulate the bot. I do most of the work in the functions prior to the bot, which is awesome. So you can see I grab the P&L close. I say run the P&L close, see if my target's been hit or if a stop loss is, or my max loss has been hit. If it has either of those, close the order. I check the sleep on close to make sure I'm not over ordering. I get my 2 data frames. I get the ask and the bid. I get the signal based off of that data frame. You can see DFD. I have my own little signal. But again, you're learning the pieces, the blocks, and then you have to make your own signals. And then we have our open size, in position, current size. And let's just jump to the top real quick. We're on line 452. But essentially this bot, if I can explain the strategy really quickly, it's looking at the SMA and buying. If it's under the SMA, it's only opening as a sell order. And if it's over the SMA, it's only opening as a buy order. But then it's also checking the order book data, because if we're in a position that's a long position, it checks the order book data to see if that position should be closed. Because if I'm in a long position and there's like millions and millions of buyers behind me, I don't want to close it. And I mean millions of dollars, but millions of dollars of buyers behind me, then I don't close it. So that's just one of those things you can test out and try out. But I just really wanted to get this code to you, not to use it, but to see how I piece everything together. Because these are just Lego blocks that you're putting together, and then you'll have your own little strategies here. You can see in position, grabs the in position, grabs the current size, grabs the bid, and then this right here is where we actually put the function of the order. So if in position, this is super important, and I've lost a lot of money because I didn't have this. You check if it's in position before, and then you have to, again, this is a big one too. If the current size is smaller than the position size we want, then we will go into the buy function or the open order function. After we cancel all orders, we see if the signal is buy and if the current price is over the SMA. This is kind of the strategy part. Current price over the last SMA. Then we make 2 buy orders, and you can see here, I make the buy prices, and then I pass them in here, prices, and then the params, the symbol, all that good stuff. And then LF, the signal says sell. So I really make my signal in my data frame in this bot. All bots are different, but I want to show you how I set up a couple here, just so we can kind of make sure you have, like, at least you can see how I set things up. And you'll probably set them up differently. And then, so the data frame shows if it's a sell, and then I also look for the current price, which is really just the bid, which I set up here. Current price equals bid. And this is like the rule of the bot, making an order, opening order as a sell. And then if not submitting any orders because the rules didn't apply, right? So I'm just going to sleep for 10 minutes and then print we are already in position. If none of this applies, that probably means we're already in position, so not making new orders. And then I just loop it for 28 seconds. So in 499 lines of code, this is the first bot I'm sharing with you. Play around with it. Don't run it live, but see how I built the flow out, and you can kind of build your own flow. And I'll show you a couple more bots here in this training that you can just kind of learn from me. Now you know kind of everything all the functions I use, and then you use those pieces to build your own strategies. And from there, you'll become a great algo trader as long as you just keep on testing new stuff and back testing and all that good stuff. I know we haven't got to back testing yet, but we will before this bootcamp is over. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video where I'll go over another bot.